Yes, good afternoon. My name is Samuel Izurzer from the Samuel Izurzer channel. Hopefully today I hope you're going to like what I have to say because just recently I've been, actually I put up but maybe about 4 videos on the hearings of what just happened last week concerning the emails and Hillary Clinton Foundation and what's going on, and the FBI specifically has been compromised. And let me tell you something. You got to watch it. Some of the videos, you can just go to the hearings or some of the playlists that I have. The one that got the most hits was actually the one with the U.S. Congress subpoenas, FBI for Clinton emails on the spot. The one I thought was going to get more hits, and I don't know, maybe the algorithms are not fully functioning well, probably, is the FBI blacking out unclassified emails from Congress that the FBI has been compromised. You got to listen to some of the, actually, you got to listen to the whole thing. It's not only important, for maybe some people like email me, say, oh, it's just full entertainment. Well, I don't think that's funny. It's not entertainment. It's just unbelievably how the FBI is censoring even the unclassified emails from Congress. And now I'm starting to understand why some of these Democrats are actually protecting. The word is protecting. I mean, you can make up any other word, but really it's protecting Hillary Clinton, and they're protecting themselves and the Democratic line, just like the Nazis, like they were protecting the Nazi line, even if they would, hurt themselves and so on. Doesn't matter if you're crooked, if you're killing people. It's okay if Hillary Clinton, you know, got $10 million from the oligarchs from the Ukrainian coup. It doesn't matter. Who cares about all that? 10 million to the foundation, actually, but who cares, right? So new emails could send Democrat Elijah Cummings to prison for targeting voter rights group. Well, no kidding, he was so adamant for protecting it. I'm going to be showing you some clips on Elijah and some of the Democrats. It just doesn't make sense. Really, it just does not make sense. And I remember this from last year. Catherine Engelbrecht, I remember from the True the Vote, testified before Congress in February of last year. She was targeted by the FBI, RS, ATF, and the OSHA after she filed for tax exempt status for the Voters' Rights Group. Now, obviously, the new emails can send Democrat Elijah Cummings to prison. Why? I'll tell you why. Well, I'm not going to go much into the details. I mean, you can read the article, okay? But last year, the House Oversight Committee released more emails that proved that the IRS was feeding Representative Cummings with confidential tax information on the voter fraud prevention group True the Vote. New IRS emails released by the House Oversight show that staff working for the Democratic ranking member Elijah Cummings communicated with the IRS multiple times from 2012 to 2013 about voter fraud prevention group True the Vote. First of all, True the Vote was not fraud. Anyways, they were, they were a conservative group. And, why not? I mean, they wanted to have a tax exempt. But obviously, these communists or socialists or whatever the hell they are, leftist, socialist, communist oligarchs, I guess, don't want you to have free speech. So if you just read of what's going on, I'm almost sure some of the new emails that are coming up, I'm almost sure that Elijah Cummings, Democratic Party, sitting in the House Oversight Committee, who was protecting who else? Grandma. I mean, Hillary Clinton. Sorry, Grandma. Did I say Grandma? Was protecting himself. He doesn't want anything that's blacked out. Now, if you look at one of the videos that I had that's called the FBI blacking out unclassified emails from Congress. Well, who is Congress? The people. Not only they're redacting or they're blacking out names of people organizations and so on that are unclassified, that are classified, but they're doing unclassified. The FBI is obviously compromised. Now, obviously, there's something going on here, and I just want to remind the Democratic Party. Obviously, this it sounds like the Nazi line, where it's better to be a Nazi first, and who cares about everything else, and let's kill, let's murder, let's lie, let's fraud, let's do whatever it is possible. Who cares? It's the Nazi line. I mean, or the Democratic line. It doesn't really matter because the truth doesn't matter anymore to these people. They have no truth. Anyways, God bless you, everyone. Please read the article. Now I'm going to be showing a clip on why some of these Democrats are actually scared. They're actually shitting in their pants, literally shitting in their pants, because they know that if WikiLeaks sends it out, I'm almost sure that Mr. Cummings and the rest of the Democratic hellhole, fraudulent leftist communist front, as I call it, will be exposed. Anyways, God bless you. Take care of yourself and protect yourself.
Appreciate you all being here. I got to tell you, though, I wish I didn't have to compel you all to be here. We asked you as legislative liaisons to come participate with us, in which you refused. So the Committee on Oversight will come to order, and without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. We have a couple goals for the hearing in our investigation and our need to do our constitutional duty. One, the FBI needs to produce its full investigative file to the United States Congress. And I mean the full file, not just the parts the FBI deemed relevant. Right now we only have the 302s handpicked by the FBI. We decide what's relevant, not the Department of Justice, not the FBI. We're entitled to the full file. Two, all unclassified portions of the file should be released to the public as quickly as possible. It has been more than 20 days since I'm sure the very first FOIA request was put out there, and by law that should be out there. I want to commend the FBI for already releasing its investigative summary report and Secretary Clinton's 302 interview summary to the public. We do appreciate that, and it's duly noted. But there are still a number of 302s left for the FBI to release. We were surprised to learn that the 302s, the so-called investigative files provided to the United States Congress, at least to the security officer, were only a portion of them, not all of them. And three, all members of Congress should be able to review the entire file. Right now, unless you're part of the Intel Committee, Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and the Appropriations Committee, these are if you're a member, you have to be on those committees in order to view what is currently in the SCIF. It's unclear to me how the FBI can. Thank you. It's my understanding, Mr. Higgins, Mr. Samuel, and Mr. Soul, that Ms. Walsh's statements reflect the IC. Okay. We'll now recognize myself for the first set of questions. Mr. Herring, what information do you believe that Congress does not have the right to see?
So we believe it's important for oversight committees to understand how the FBI reached our conclusion.
No, wait. I'm asking you a philosophical question here. What does Congress not have the right to see?
So I don't know if I can answer that in a way that, I think there's more to it than a simple answer. I think that each case is sort of specific to its own set of facts. I think Director Comey tried to be as transparent as he could with this committee.
Do you think he could be
other committees as he responsibly can be? So I think when he spoke and he answered questions.
Wait. What is it that I, as a member of Congress, or any member on this Congress, either side of the aisle, what is it that you believe we don't have the right to see? See, this is the way our government works. We get to do oversight. That's why since 1814 this committee has been doing that. There's executive privilege. Let me help you. There's executive privilege. Has the president invoked executive privilege in this case?
No.
The answer is no. Good. That's right. The answer is no. Is there any other situation?
Look, when it comes to classified information and the classification that deals in the executive order, not all the information that we have in our files belongs to us. We defer to other agencies when it comes to access to their classified information.
But you are the ones that put redactions on personal identifiable information, correct?
We did on the personal identifiable information, that's correct.
Where in the Constitution does it say that I can't see that?
Does it address it specifically in the Constitution?
So, can you cite any legal case, any precedent that says that Congress can't look at personal identifiable information?
I cannot cite any legal case.
Are you aware that Congress is exempt from the Privacy Act?
I am.
Does the FBI treat congressional document requests as FOIA requests?
No.
Will the FBI provide Congress all of the 302s?
All of the 302s, we have one set that you've been provided already. The rest of them are coming through the FOIA process.
Wait.
Yep.
We're not, FOIA process. You mean I got to fill out a FOIA request?
You can. Not necessary.
Here's the problem. You handpicked the 302s to give to us. My understanding of discussion with staff, and I appreciate your accessibility with the staff. You've been good, and you're new, and for your first time hearing, this is a tough one, but the reality is you should give us all the 302s.
So let me say this. I think the director made principled decisions about what to say to Congress when he was here and also what to provide to Congress. As far as the
Wait, where do I find that?
Person
Do we just let everybody in government decide that they're based on their own individual principles? That's what see, it's trust but verify is how it works. You don't get to decide what I get to see. I get to see it all. I was elected by some 800,000 people to come to Congress and see classified information. I was elected by my colleagues here to be the chairman of this committee. That's the way our Constitution works. Will the FBI provide to Congress the full file with no redactions of personal identifiable information?
I cannot make that commitment sitting here today.
Then I'm going to issue a subpoena, and I'm going to do it right now. So let's go. I've signed this subpoena. We want all the 302s, and we would like the full file. You can accept service on behalf of the FBI?
Certainly.
You are hereby served. We have a duty and a responsibility. You can cite no precedent, nothing in the Constitution, no legal precedent. You know this is important to us. You now have your subpoena. We would all like to see this information. I've gone past my time, or coming up on going past my time. I do appreciate the 4 people that are here today. They have served this country and served it honorably. We appreciate their service to their country. They have been left a mess. We're trying to untangle it. All we ask that you do is share with us the truth and perspective as you see it, and that's what we're seeking. No matter what it is, we just want to get to the truth. So now let's recognize the ranking member, Mr. Cummings, for his opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to make sure, Mr. Kennedy and witnesses, that as we address this mess and as we address this disaster, as the chairman has described it, and as we enter this hearing entitled Examining FOIA Compliance at the Department of State, that we make sure that we look at the entire problem. I want to know how far back it goes. And if we are about the integrity of this committee and truly addressing FOIA compliance, I hope we'll take a look and see what happened even before Hillary Clinton and what happened afterwards. Integrity of the committee. Integrity of what we are supposed to be about. integrity of using the taxpayers' dollars wisely so that we might be effective and efficient in what we do. I wish I could say that I support today's hearing, but I think everyone in this room knows what is really going on here. This hearing is not about an effort to improve FOIA or federal record keeping. This is an attack on Hillary Clinton's candidacy for President of the United States of America, and just the latest in a series of attacks. The Republicans started with their discredited Benghazi investigation, accusing Secretary Clinton of all kinds of unsubstantiated conspiracies. When they turned up nothing, they just made up new accusations against her. Then, when the FBI director, Mr. Comey, sat in that very seat, in that witness chair, and debunked those allegations, the Republicans responded by attacking the FBI director and then making up more accusations against Secretary Clinton. When Mr. Comey came before us, I told him that unfortunately, while at one time he was the darling of the Republican Party, now he was being placed on trial. The chairman sent a perjury referral to the Justice Department that is ludicrous on its face. Then he sent another referral accusing Secretary Clinton of obstructing justice. These actions had their desired effect. They kept repeating the headline that Hillary Clinton is under investigation. Over the next 5 days, this committee will hold 3 hearings focused directly on Hillary Clinton. One today, one Monday, and one Tuesday. This frantic pre-election fervor is an egregious abuse of taxpayer dollars for political purposes. Today, this hearing is supposed to be focused on a report issued by the State Department Inspector General that highlighted long-standing challenges with FOIA across 5 different secretaries of state. Yet, the Republicans splashed only one picture across the advisory they sent to the press, a picture of Secretary Clinton. The IG identified FOIA challenges under Secretaries Albright, Powell, Rice, Clinton, and Kerry. But the Republican memo for today focused only on one. You guessed it, Secretary Clinton. Last night we obtained an email in which Secretary Powell, back in 2009, provided advice to Secretary Clinton on how to skirt security rules and bypass requirements to preserve federal records. Although Secretary Clinton has made clear that she did not rely on this advice, in this email, Secretary Powell appears to admit that he did this himself. He also says that he disregarded security warnings and used his personal mobile device inside the State Department's secure space. Now, let me make it very clear. Secretary Powell is a man I admire greatly. And I have tremendous respect for Secretary Powell and his decades of service to our nation, despite the poor judgment shown in this email. However, rather than responding like Republicans have done by making a series of frivolous criminal referrals just to generate headlines to help Donald Trump, our goal as a committee should be to ensure that the historical record is complete, not limited to Secretary Clinton, but the other secretaries, Albright, Powell, Kerry, Rice. Secretary Powell used his personal email account for work, sent emails from non-governmental servers at AOL, and did not preserve these records. Yet, the Republican memo focused only on the period between 2009 and 2013, when Hillary Clinton was secretary. This memo says the department, and I quote, lost an untold number of federal records due to inappropriate record-keeping practices by Secretary Hillary Clinton and her senior staff, end of quote. Yet, Secretary Clinton produced some 55,000 pages of emails, while Secretary Powell has produced none. If we truly are concerned with preserving the entire historical record, why hasn't the committee sent a letter asking AOL to see if any of Secretary Powell's emails are recoverable? The IG also reported that Secretary Powell sent classified information from his AOL account. Yet the committee has never asked AOL to scan its systems, sequester national security information, or identify employees who may have had access to that information. On this final issue, classification, I do believe our committee could play a very constructive role. And I want you to shed light on this, Mr. Kennedy, but only if we do it in a bipartisan way. This whole idea of classification. As part of our review so far, we have seen all kinds of ridiculous outcomes. We've seen agencies disagree on classification decisions. We've seen one agency say a document is classified, and another agency say a document is not classified. We've seen unclassified documents suddenly become retroactively classified. We've seen documents with classification markings that were completely wrong. And we've seen documents that are explicitly marked unclassified become classified after the fact. I do not know how anyone can decipher this broken system, and there's no independent arbiter within the executive branch to handle these kinds of issues. This is exactly the type of cross-agency issue that our committee was intended to address. And I hope we can do so together in a bipartisan way, or we're going to find ourselves in these predicaments again and again and again, where one agency says it's classified, another one says it's not. Retroactive today, wasn't before. In some kind of way, we need to address that. Mr. Kennedy, you've been around long enough, and hopefully you and the others here can shed some light as to how we as a government oversight committee, after all, we oversee state and intelligence and others, trying to figure out how we can make sure that we avoid those clashes in the future. With that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you and I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. We'll hold the record open for 5 legislative days for any members who'd like to submit a written statement. We'll now recognize our witnesses. We're pleased to welcome the Honorable Patrick F. Kennedy, Undersecretary for Management at the United States Department of State. It is proper to address him, I believe, as Ambassador, and my apologies that your nameplate doesn't say that, but it should. The The Honorable Janice Jacobs is the Transparency Coordinator at the United States Department of State. And Ambassador, we thank you for being here as well. Ms. Karen Lang is the Director of the Executive Secretariat at the United States Department of State. And Mr. Clarence Finney, Jr., Deputy Director for Correspondence, Records, and Staffing Division of the Executive Secretariat at the United States Department of State. We welcome you here as well. And thank you. I believe you've been in this role since 2006, correct? We welcome you all and thank you for being here. Pursuant to committee rules, all witnesses are to be sworn before they testify. So if you will please rise and raise your right hands. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Let the record reflect that all witnesses answered in the affirmative. It's my understanding that you're all representatives from the Department of State, that rather than giving individual statements, that Ambassador Kennedy will give one statement. We're very generous with our time here, Ambassador, so please feel free. The time is yours.
Thank you very much. Chairman Chaffetz, Ranking Member Cummings, committee members, good morning. Thank you for your invitation and your interest in FOIA. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the State Department's ongoing efforts to improve our FOIA process. I am joined today by my colleagues, Ambassador Janice Jacobs, Director Karen Lang, and Deputy Director Clarence Finney. Ambassador Jacobs returned to the State Department in 2015 to serve as the Secretary's Transparency Coordinator. Karen Lang is the Director of the Executive Secretariat staff, and among many responsibilities, she is responsible for coordinating the Executive Secretariat's response to FOIA requests, and Clarence Finney is one of Ms. Lang's deputies, particularly responsible for FOIA matters. The State Department is committed to openness and to encouraging public interest in U.S. foreign policy. Two important efforts underscore our commitment to openness. First, our efforts to preserve a complete record of U.S. foreign policy under the Federal Records Act, and secondly, our efforts to ensure that the American public can gain access
to enter the CRS report, as well as the December 3rd, 2007 letter from Chairman Waxman to Attorney General Mukasey in the record. Without objection, so ordered. I'd also ask unanimous consent to enter the September 10th, 2007 letter from Chairman Conyers to Attorney General Gonzalez into the record. Without objection, so ordered. And finally, I want to commend the FBI for making its summer report and 302 of Secretary Clinton public. I do appreciate that. It's a good start. It's a good start. But it's time we be candid and honest with the American people. We allow Congress to do its job. I didn't pick this timeline. Hillary Clinton picked this timeline. I don't care about the election, what time it is. We're going to keep going at this full speed ahead. It is far, far too important. With that, I will now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Cummings, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. To the witnesses, I hope that as you listen to the chairman, if you think that the cases that he has cited, previous cases involving, for example, the U.S. attorneys are distinguishable from what's happening here today, I'd just like to know. I think he makes a very good point, other than the fact that I guess in some of those cases at least, the Justice Department was accused of doing something wrong. But I'd like to know exactly where you all stand on that, because I think he makes a very good point. Well, here we are again, another day in the Oversight Committee, another emergency hearing about Hillary Clinton. Today is the second hearing about Secretary Clinton we have held in 3 business days. And tomorrow we will have a third. For the record, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you, and I want the American public to know that you have agreed to schedule a hearing on EpiPen, which affects so many of our constituents, because that too is an emergency situation for the constituents of every member who sits here in this chamber right now. As far as I can tell, the only emergency is that the election is less than 2 months away. The real reason for today's hearing is that FBI Director James Comey refused to be summoned before this committee yet again. He refused. Director Comey has already bent over backwards, departed from long-standing law enforcement precedent, and provided our committee with an unmatched level of transparency about his internal decision-making regarding this investigation. First, he announced the results of his investigation publicly. Normally, the FBI does not discuss its internal decision-making, but Director Comey did so in this case. Second, he agreed to testify in an emergency hearing before our committee 48 hours after his announcement. It's the FBI director. He sat right there in the witness chair and he testified about the evidence they obtained, the law they applied, and the decision-making process they employed. He described how, quote, an all-star team, unquote, of career FBI investigators came to the unanimous conclusion and how it wasn't even close. But the Republicans did not like the answers Director Comey gave, so they demanded copies of the FBI's internal investigative files. Again, in sharp break from past precedent, the FBI director agreed to share documents from the investigation in an effort to put this question to rest. But again, that was not enough for the Republicans, so they demanded the public release of these documents. Yet again, Director Comey broke from precedent. He released the FBI's internal investigative memo and the notes from their interview with Secretary Clinton. Let me say the obvious here. No matter what Director Comey does, it will never be enough for the Republicans. They are demanding that he bring criminal charges against Secretary Clinton, despite the fact that the evidence simply is not there. And that is something nobody with integrity would ever do. We sat here and we listened to Director Comey say that there were two things that matter most to him in his life. He said his family and his reputation. Last week, the Republicans wanted Director Comey to come up here one more time. But this time, he said enough is enough. He spoke with Chairman Chaffetz personally, and he told him enough is enough. In response, the chairman rushed to call today's emergency hearing. He dashed out letters as late as Thursday night, threatening even more subpoenas. The problem is that he invited the wrong people. The witnesses here today are the legislative affairs staffers from the FBI and other agencies. They did not make the decisions the chairman is upset about. Those decisions were made by none other than Director Comey. The chairman has a problem with Director Comey. He should take it up with him, not beat up on legislative affairs staffers because the FBI director wants no part of any partisan charade. The FBI's legislative affairs staffer have been in his job for just a few weeks, Mr. Herring, and is currently serving in an acting capacity. He's been very responsive with our committee, and it makes no sense to hammer him just because he's following the directives of his boss, Director Comey. The whole hearing is a bait and switch. I have the invitation letters right here, and the chairman says that this hearing will be held in a classified session. I ask unanimous consent to put them in the record. Your letters about this hearing?
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. So that is what these witnesses prepared for. I don't know whether they spent their weekends preparing for a classified hearing or not, but I assume they did. They did not prepare to answer questions in an open session. So what are we doing here? At the last minute, the chairman decided to hold this hearing in open session to try to generate more headlines rather than obtain the classified information he claims to seek. It is fundamentally unfair and irresponsible to force these witnesses to answer questions about this issue in open session. As we have all heard, the classification level of these documents have changed repeatedly, and dozens of highly trained diplomats did not think many of them were classified. These witnesses should not be forced to make surprise, on-the-spot determinations about what they can and cannot say in an open session. After all, we've had debates for the last several months about what's classified and what isn't classified. So not only is this unfair, but it risks the inadvertent disclosure of classified information. We should hold this hearing in a closed session, like the chairman said he would in his letter, rather than gather the information and then review the written transcript to determine what can be released publicly and what cannot. That is how a responsible approach would look, but that is not what is happening here. I guess this is what happens when you try to schedule a public attack against Hillary Clinton for every day of the week. You get frantic and you swap substantive discussions for set-up hearings and cheap press hits. Democrats on this committee have serious questions, and by the way, Republicans have serious questions. It's not just the Democrats, about our broken classification system. Even the chairman agreed with me last week that the system is broken and we need to work together to do something about it. And we all have, I think, concerns about why so many of these documents were retroactively classified long after they were sent. But the only way to have that productive, substantive discussion is to go into closed session, as the chairman's letter stated. The only reason for the hearing today is open is because the Republicans know a closed hearing won't be on camera. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back and thank you.
I thank the gentleman. With some indulgence, the ranking member knows it is a requirement in House rules to go into a non-classified setting, to an open session prior to going into a classified setting. We have set up in the House Visitor Center the classified room that will be closed to the public and the press. We are prepared to go into that setting, but we're required by House rules to first come into this open session first. It does require a vote of the committee.
Would the chairman yield?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I guess it would have been helpful if you had laid that out from the beginning, because as I said to you up here at the dais and yesterday and on the floor of the House, one of my concerns was that I don't want,
The testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Let the record reflect that the witnesses all answered in the affirmative. In order to allow time for discussion, we would appreciate it if you would limit your questions or your comments to 5 minutes. I'm not sure who has an opening statement and who doesn't. We haven't been submitted anything. Mr. Kadzik, do you have any open comments?
No, I do not have an opening statement, Mr. Chairman, but I would note for the record that I was not compelled.
Withholding these documents. So
Will the gentlewoman yield?
I most certainly will.
Any one of the 4 people from the intelligence community here can help answer this. Have you made redactions on personal identifiable information to the Intel Committee? Mr. Higgins, how about you?
No, we have not.
There's no redactions at the... Ms. Walsh?
Not to my knowledge.
Mr. Samuel?
No, Mr. Chairman, not to my knowledge.
Mr. Sewell?
No, Mr. Chairman, not to my knowledge.
Can you release these emails into the public? And if so, what would happen? Mr. Higgins, what happens if we release these emails on Hillary Clinton's unsecured server? What happens?
Mr. Chairman, I can confirm that CIA participated in a classification review process, and I'd be happy to talk about that process in closed session. Needless to say, some of the materials do include classified information that we do not believe is appropriate for public release.
And are some of these materials include sources and methods?
Mr. Chairman, I'd prefer to discuss any further matters relating to classification in closed session.
Gentlewoman's time has expired, but thank you so much for yielding to me.
But reclaiming my time, I get to close in my time. You took all my time. I thought the chairman could have, I think the chairman can have all the time he wants. I'd just like to conclude by saying, and I just ask for just a second, what our committee is engaged in is nothing but a partisan attack on Secretary Clinton with an effort to harm or undermine her presidential campaign. That's all it is. Get the chairman of the Intelligence Committee to release the documents to you. No one is withholding it. The Intelligence Committee has jurisdiction over agencies, including the FBI. They release their information. They have a process. You have appealed to that process. Let's wait for that process. Ask him why he's not taking a vote to give you access to these documents. You're making it look like there's some conspiracy or some terrible thing happening when it's really nothing but a partisan attack on Secretary Clinton.
I thank the gentlewoman, and I guess with some indulgence, where I have a problem is when they redact information that is deemed unclassified. I don't understand that. It makes no sense. And classification is one issue, but when they redact information that has already been designated as unclassified, I believe that Congress should be able to see that.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Sure. Yeah.
In the hearings that we've had, the witnesses have testified that personal information that has been redacted has been to protect the privacy of people and personal information. Now that's on record.